All right, what's up, Zach? Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Sorry about last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I know you're sorry, but I'm actually really thankful because I'd rather someone like say, "Hey, my signal's all fucked up. I don't want to do it." You know what I mean? Because then someone like you like come on here and like it's just fading out in and out, and for like the 30 minutes we can't hear each other or the screen's frozen. So I appreciate it, and I'm glad we could get you on this week, man.
Yeah. No problem, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Um,
Well, well, cool, man. I heard you on the Serious Angler for a little bit. That was like months ago, I guess. But so I know a little bit about you, and I've been wanting to get you on for a little bit, but I could guess after guess. So, would you just go ahead right now, kind of like just introduce yourself, kind of like who you are, what you do, things like that.
well, I'm Zack Hall from Longville, Louisiana. Currently live in Birch Run, Michigan,
Okay.
and I fish kayak tournaments. I've been bass fishing my whole life, but really trying to tackle the kayak tournament scene this year
Right.
as hard as I can.
Yeah. Well, you just found out you're having a baby boy, right?
Yeah, we just found
Congrats.
out the other day.
Congrats. Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate
I
it.
saw that. So congratulations. But back to the fishing, man. What were you doing before you got into kayak fishing?
I was fishing as a co-angler, doing like some BFLs and stuff like that,
Okay.
and that was kind of a neat experience, I guess I should say.
Right. Now, were you? I mean, how long you been doing this for? Like, go ahead. Like, how'd you get the fishing, and like, what eventually got you into the kayak?
Well, I started out fishing just farm ponds in Louisiana. I mean, every field that has cows in it well, I'm actually in Louisiana now visiting family. So every field that has cows, they're going to have a pond for the cows to drink out of. Some of those
Right.
ponds are just loaded with bass, and that's really what started it. And then trips to Toledo Bend growing up with my dad. We had like a pontoon boat and a little aluminum boat. Did a lot of catfishing on Toledo Bend and did some bass fishing with friends. I was actually just Toledo Bend yesterday with some friends. Um, all that, and it kind of evolved into wanting to fish some tournaments. Like fishing big tournaments always seem out of the realm of possibility. Um, and it was like what 4 years ago, I was talking to my buddy about tournaments. Local tournaments is cool. I did a few of those here with some friends, and I was talking to my buddy talking about getting into the tournament scene. He said, "Why don't you just fish as a co-angler?" I was like, "Well, I guess I could. You do good enough, you can win a pretty good amount of money."
Right.
Did that the first year. Had kind of a bad experience, left a bad taste in my mouth. I did that like in 2019. I did a Costa series and I did a couple BFLs and had a few good experiences and a few bad experiences. Bad kind of outweighed the good. Didn't really think I was going to do any more. And then last year, last minute, I just said, screw it. Signed up for all of them in the state of Michigan. Ended up winning one of them. Made it to the regional. Uh, it was cool, but definitely not something I want to pursue. And as far like when I want to compete, I got this in my mind that I want to do tournaments. Like I don't want to just do one here and there. Like I want to fish a
Right.
bunch.
Right.
And fishing kayak tournaments, after I started researching that, like it's affordable, you know. Like
Right.
if I had a bass boat and was dragging it all over the country, I'd probably go broke pretty quick, you know,
Yeah.
at the level that I want to try to compete at, you know what I mean? So kayak tournaments is so affordable, and I just fishing out of a kayak, I fell in love with it last year. I mean, I love it.
Now, was last year your first year doing it?
Yeah, last year was my first year. I fished out of a kayak once, probably 5 or 6 years ago, but last year was my first year really actually fishing hard out of a kayak and fishing tournaments out of a kayak.
Right. Now, the crossover, man. Like, it makes sense that you would do kayak fishing because it is expensive. And it's like a different way of life. Trying to do the boat side of. I mean, just this year with
Mm-hmm.
the gas prices, I'm like, well, damn, thank God, I don't drag a giant boat behind me from state to state and things like that. So it's just more of a feasible thing. But what were you that you saw that kind of like convinced you that like okay maybe kayak's the way to go for now? Because I mean it's tough. Like I don't understand the whole co-angler thing. I mean, Bailey was talking to me because he did it a few times. And I'm like, man, that doesn't really sound like. I mean, it sounds fun, but it doesn't sound like it's like what I thought it was. Like you co-ang, you be co-angler a certain amount of times, and you work yourself up to be like the main guy on the boat or something like that. I'm like, that doesn't work like that. It's just you'll co-ang until you don't want to co-ang anymore, and hopefully you can get some money saved up and buy your own bass boat or something like that. But I don't know. It's a world I really don't understand. But like, what was it about it that you didn't really care for, and then what made you really want to get into a kayak?
Well, like okay, so fishing as a co-angler, I kind of got into it because I wanted to see how the bigger tournaments worked and all that kind of stuff. But everybody involved in the whole tournament scene, it's like if you're fishing as a co-angler, you're there to learn. You're there to learn fishing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we can always learn something new about fishing. Everybody can. I learn something new every day I'm on the water. But it's like some of the guys you get paired up with aren't the best teachers. But
Right.
they may not know that much. They can afford an entry fee and they can afford a boat, and that's why they're fishing. They're not the
Right.
best people to learn from. You know what I mean? So it, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. And we was at a Coastal Series event, and I got paired up with a guy, and uh, we had water all the way up to halfway up my calf. Come in the boat, we speared so many waves, we almost sunk the boat out in the middle of Lake
Jeez.
Champlain. It was scary.
Yeah, it's a
I've
scary
never
lake.
been that scared in a boat in my life, and it's so many things are out of your control. I'll never fish as a co-angler again.
I was thinking like because I know you can win and you get whatever. Like it's a tournament for you as well, but it's like your success is based off the guy that's driving the boat. Like you know what I mean? Like where he allows you to fish or whatever. I mean, it's got to be like
Mm-hmm.
I don't see like anything like. If, I mean, I can understand like if it's just like a learning process, but like say if you're going out there to compete, it's like I don't really see that like as competing because you're only as good or the opportunity you have is only as good as like the angler in the front of the boat allows it. You know what I mean? I've heard like horror
Yeah,
stories of like especially like for like a reaction bite, they're fishing the bank or something like that, and you can't really just go up there and start throwing next to them, and you got to fish behind them, in places that aren't maybe suitable for you or and what
yeah.
your goals are for that tournament. There's nothing you can really do about it.
And that's the thing. If talk about how you're wanting to do good, you're wanting to compete and become a good co-angler. A lot of those guys are going to tell you straight up, if you're here to compete, go get you a boat.
Yeah,
Fish as a boater. You're a co-angler. You're here to learn. That's like
right.
the mantra of the whole thing. I guess you could say whatever. I don't even know if I use that word right. Sounded good.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, you pay an entry fee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I don't like. That's when it's like it's not just fun anymore, and it's not just learning. Like I'm here to at least try to get that money back.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, and
Right,
there's
right,
some
right.
people that love it. That's them.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, like you're transitioning to a kayak, man. Like, how did it start? Would you end up getting in? What was your first tournament? What was that experience like?
Okay, so I fished out of well, it was like I told you earlier, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. My buddy's dad had two cheap 10-foot kayaks from Walmart. Me and him went fishing out on a local lake here in Louisiana and caught like a 4 pounder out of it. And that 4 pounder about towed me around the lake. And it was just cool getting up in skinny spots and none of the boats could get to any of that. And I just whacked them that first day. I couldn't even stand up and fish out of this kayak. It was just too unstable. I could barely bring any gear with me. The thing was tiny, but I had fun. And that was always kind of in the back of my mind. And I watched like a lot of Chad Hoover's videos on YouTube. He's kind of the one person that's always put out good, consistent kayak stuff over the years, and
Right.
I've always tuned in to see his videos and stuff like that. And what was it? The coronavirus last year. I had a good job. I was making some good money in Long Island actually, and all that the job got shut down, and came back. Sorry, excuse me. Came back home and was getting a little bored, and I started searching around on Facebook, and I made a post in one of the Michigan kayak groups. Hey, does anybody have a fishing kayak for sale? I'm wanting to get something to kind of get started, kind of get my feet wet. A guy sent me a message, said, "Hey, I got a Perception Pescador 12 pedal drive with a Garmin 73 SV, $800, and it's yours." I was like, "I'm on my way." I blew it, man. I went straight to his house, bought it, and I think my first tournament, my first technical tournament was the month long on Lake St.
Right.
Clair. I had to borrow a measuring hog trough because I didn't even have that yet. I was diving into it as quick as I could, realizing that you could sign up on your phone. I'm like, that's so easy. And I borrowed a hog trough from a buddy, and I went and put up like 104 something inches in 30 minutes on one of my spots. It was
Now,
it
was that
was
what tournament
ridiculous.
was that? Was that like just a local tournament?
No, it was the April month long
Oh, the
KBF.
month long. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
just kind of like my first experience with the whole online tournament, Tourney X deal.
Tourney X and all that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I was measuring these smallmouth that were like 20 inches plus, and I didn't get some of their mouths to close right. I know I got docked for one. I think I ended up with 103 something inches, and I got sixth. But them Lake St. Clair fish are giant. The guy that won, he had giant fish. But it was cool to put that up in like what 30 minutes or an hour. I slammed all them fish up on the board. I was like, wow.
Yeah, especially a month long. You crushed a lot of people. Like when those guys wake up and they have their cup of coffee, they go check to see what the standings are for the day. They're like 100 inches.
Yeah. See, I just found that spot like a couple days before, and I was like, man, there's some giant fish here. So getting out there on the kayak and putting it up, that was pretty cool. It was a good taste of how it could be. It doesn't
Right.
always happen like that. So that was pretty cool. I was like, man, I'm ready for some live tournaments.
Yeah. Were you able to get any live tournaments last year with the whole COVID thing? Because I know you're in Michigan, right? Or that's where you're at?
Yeah, that's where I've been living the past few years. So that's where
Yeah.
me and my family are right now. Yeah.
So I know like those areas like were like kind of like New York kind of had some pretty crazy restrictions and stuff and like travel
They
restrictions
did.
and things like that. Were you able to make like tournaments throughout the year?
Well, see, they did. And Michigan tried to put their foot down and say you can't fish out of a boat.
Nah.
Like there was a couple months where they wouldn't allow people fishing out of boats. Like there was game wardens waiting at the boat launches, telling people they got to go home and all this kind of stuff. But we could still get out there and kayak fish.
Yeah.
There's only one person in a kayak, so they let us do that. And yeah, everything was fair game. There wasn't any boats on the water, so everything was less pressure. That was pretty neat.
Cool. Cool. Well, let me ask you. So one of the reasons I was because I see you catch smallmouth, and that's one of those things. Like I live in upstate New York. I should be like a smallmouth guru. With all the big Cayuga and Ontario and even my like Oneida is known to have really good smallmouth, but it's not something that I enjoy. I enjoy targeting because there's a lot of work I feel like that goes into like really getting good going out there and like pursuing small. I mean, for like once you find them, I guess you're good. But like, there's a lot of work that goes into smallmouth fishing as far as like graphing and getting out there in the offshore and finding them year round the way like some of these guys up here do. What's your experience with smallmouth? 'Cause I know you're from the south, and that's a different fish. That at one point that was a different fish for you.
Yes, well, and I'll go ahead and say I'm not the greatest smallmouth fisherman. I'm not a great deep water angler.
Yeah.
Lake St. Clair is a very unique body of water. It's featureless and it's not that deep. I mean, it's like 24 at the deepest part. So when it comes to finding those fish there, you just got to find the right structure, and the water will be 38 degrees and you can catch them in 10 foot. I've done it.
Yeah.
So it's an easier body of water to figure them out on. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'm ready to go to Champlain later in the year and actually try to target real smallmouth. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to get at too, because that's like one like I don't mind like on my own time going out there. If I'm just leisure fishing, spend a day, go out there and try to find the smallmouth bite. But like one thing that I don't do like during tournaments, I don't feel like unless I don't have enough time. A lot of times I feel like I can go out there and really lean into them. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's one of those fish that you really got to find the structure. You got to find where they're at. It's not like I can find a largemouth pretty consistently. When it comes to smallmouth, I just feel like for a tournament wise, I think you just got to put a lot of time on the water. And a lot of times I find myself, I don't have that kind of time to go out there on the water and to, the graph and to really to feel comfortable like going into game day, like, hey, I'm going to go target smallmouth today. How do you feel about that?
That's something, time on the water is definitely a big deal, especially before a tournament. That's like, I've been fortunate enough to score a good side job this year where I can do remote. And so I can go spend 5 days before some of these hobies to figure something out. But getting out there on electronics and trying to scan the deeper water and find some of those fish, that's something I try to do. That's something I want to get better at. But like up north Champlain and stuff later on in the year, I'm excited to get up there and try to figure something out. I'm not confident in winning, but I'm excited.
I've been looking at that lake for like years. Like lately, ever since I decided I'm gonna do the Hobie event there, it's just like I don't even know where do you want to how do you want to break it down? You know what I mean? Like it's for one, it's such a big lake, but it's like it's so like it's just got so much different things to offer you. You're getting like really down in the south part, and you're talking like grass fishing, frogging, flipping. Then you go up just a little bit north, and you're talking about deep structure type fishing. I mean, there's just so much you could do. Like when I look at the map, I'm like trying to figure out like how do you want like you're gonna have 2 days, 3 days to pre-fish. How do you even want to start? Like what do you want to do? Like do you want what spot's the best spot? Because I talk to some people, it's like there isn't a best spot. It's all a best spot. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to keep everything pretty basic. try to fish what looks good to me. I try to fish what looks different. If I'm looking at my side view and I'm seeing grass, and all of a sudden I go, 20 yards and it's looking like a hard bottom, I'm going to try to pick that apart a little bit more. Any kind of weird change like that, I try to focus on that kind of stuff and keep it simple and dive in deeper and break it down even more. Maybe there's, a pile of rocks down there. Maybe there's like 3 boulders down there that's holding like 10 fish or something dumb like that. You can find that kind of stuff. But it takes a lot of looking.
Yeah. So that kind of would be like, you've had a pretty good year this year with the Hobie. I mean, you haven't got the big check yet, but you've cashed a few checks. I know the first one, I think you placed third. And I try to figure out, there's another tournament you did that you did pretty good too. I'm not sure if it was close to the top 10, wasn't it?
Broken Bow, I got 7th.
Yeah, 7th. Okay, that's what I thought. So I mean, that's pretty good. I was looking at one point there was a how they do their power rankings or whatever, Angler of the Year. Like you weren't far behind. I'm not sure where you're at now, but you were there. I mean, I saw your name.
I'm in 5th. I'm in 5th right now, but the guys ahead of me have fished 3 events. I've only fished 2.
Right.
So if I can do decent at the next Hobie, I may be able to make a good jump to 1st or 2nd place. We'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, you still got. I mean, I imagine you're at least going to do St. Clair, right?
When is St. Clair? St.
Clair
Hope?
It's the end of August, I believe.
There's a Hobie on St. Clair?
I'm not St. Clair. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, what?
Yeah, I didn't know. I'm an idiot. I've been day drinking. No, it's lacrosse.
I would like to do lacrosse. I know the baby's going to be here at the beginning of August.
Ooh,
so I'm going to need like maybe the last 2 weeks of July off and the first 2 weeks of August, depending on when he's born. I got to have a little buffer zone time off with the family, but I'm going to get right back into it as soon as I can. So if I could do lacrosse, I'd like to, because I fished lacrosse last October and I got to see a lot of it. I was fishing the BFL regional as a co-angler, and I seen a lot of pretty much everything south of the Onalaska Dam. We ran the snot out of some of those pools, and that was cool to see some of that stuff. So I kind of know what to expect. I kind of know areas that I would like to try in the kayak. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, I mean, you got at least 2 more events. I mean, because the last few are kind of close to us. We got the Susky, we got the Champlain, and then we got lacrosse. And so there's your chances right there, right?
Yeah, I'm doing Dardanelle. Dardanelle's coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
So I'm gonna go do Dardanelle and try to get those points. Because I planned on doing Watts Bar, but the day after I got back from Lake Seminole, I blew a rear main seal and a Chevy Equinox, and I had to spend $2,850 of the $3,000 I won at Seminole fixing my dang car.
Oh man, it's like, oh man, I did it, and then you get home, you're like, well, I broke again.
Gone. It was I car top on this Chevy Equinox because I still get 25 miles to the gallon hauling my kayak.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice. It's cheap.
Yeah. Good. So how do you feel about when you're making these big trips? Like, you've gone down to Seminole, you've done good. You did Broken Bow, you did good. You're going down to Dardanelle. I mean, these are all like what do you do to get ready for these fisheries that are, let's say, that you're not necessarily used to fishing? You know what I mean? Because I mean, there are these differences in these areas. What do you do? Like, what do you kind of look for? Or you're planning when you're getting ready to go to these tournaments? Like, how do you really I don't know. Whenever you're going to eat elephant, you got to take one bite. Like, what's your approach to that?
Well, Seminole, Grass Lake, definitely pre-spawn, beginning of February. If the conditions were a little bit warmer, we may have started seeing some fish on beds. I know somebody probably found some fish on beds, and enough time to practice. So I spent 5 days before there, and I just went to every different part of the lake that I could. I went all the way to the Flint. I went to the Chattanooga, or Chattahoochee. Sorry, I went to the Chattahoochee side. I went everywhere but Spring Creek. And I wanted to go to Spring Creek worse than any other place, but I don't know why I kept avoiding it. But in early spring, when it comes to springtime fishing, I love throwing a jerkbait. I will literally do everything in my power to find an area that I think will be productive for a jerkbait bite. And that's what I did for Seminole. And I found a main lake staging area. There was a channel just north of this area, and then there was the main river channel just south of this area, and it was about a football field area full of standing timber and a couple feet of grass, healthy grass. And I just started whipping a jerkbait out there the Friday before practice and caught a few quality fish. And that's when I knew I was probably going to try to spend all weekend there. And Broken Bow, it's a completely different area, but I found another area that I was confident in catching fish off a jerkbait, and I did the same thing there. So
You just
spring,
you just find the things that go with your strengths. Like you want to throw
exactly.
this. Yeah, yeah. Instead of like trying to do a million things, like you realize like there's a few things I want to do, and you just kind of go there and you find a way to make that work.
Yeah, water temperature and all that stuff. If the water was warmer, I may have been doing a little bit other things. Maybe throwing a Cinco, throwing a
Cinco, yeah,
jig.
right.
Something focusing on getting down in that grass a little bit more, something up shallower. Um, but yeah, that's going to change throughout the year. But those are what I focused on for these first earlier tournaments, just throwing that jerk bait.
Okay. Now, what do you think about for Darnell? Like, they're starting to get into starting to get a little warmer. We're starting to see some temperatures rising. What do you think about that event?
I have not, I haven't done hardly any research on the place. I haven't read a fishing report. The only thing I've done is look at it on the map, and that place is muddy, which tells me that it's probably going to be a little bit warmer in a lot of different areas of the lake. It's muddier water gets warmer quicker, depending on what the weather's been like. So honestly, don't I know what to even focus on. I don't even know what it was won on last year. I know Drew Gregory won last year out there. I don't know how he won. I don't even know what he was throwing. I got some homework to do on that place. That's for dang sure. I've been
Yeah,
enjoying some time off here.
yeah. About to say like it's been a while since you competed, right?
Yeah, it's been well. I did Lake Fork, the Bassmaster on Lake Fork.
Okay.
I got like
I keep forgetting about
46th.
I keep forgetting about bass. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
want to try to do a few more of those too. I mean, it is Bassmaster. Might as
yeah. I
well.
mean, I would love to, but just timing and money. It's just like I'm keeping it
Yeah.
simple. Like like I like the Hobie format, and I like where Hobie is at this year, and it just those events just they spoke more to me than what. Well, actually, Bass didn't even come out with their shit until
Yeah.
literally like the last minute. And I've already pretty much had my schedule figured out with what I wanted to do.
Well, if it's any consolation from what they told us at Lake Fork, they've already got 2022 nailed down pretty much.
Oh yeah,
So
I mean
that should be out.
they're a big organization. They're going to figure it out. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so Darnell, like it's at how much time are you going to give yourself to go down there and like figure it out? Like what? I mean, like obviously you take this thing a little bit serious than I thought. I mean, like you're pretty serious about this, and so you're going down there to win it. What
Hmm.
do you do? Are you 5 days?
Yeah, I'll get down there either Sunday night or Monday during the day and try to give myself like almost 5 full days of practice.
Okay. And what, you're just gonna start one place and just gonna you kind of have will you have an idea like kind of like where you and what you want to do, um, and then like is it just eliminating water for you at that point? Like are you out there trying to catch
Absolutely.
fish or like
Well, yeah.
how often are you staying in a spot? That like, to me is the hardest part of fishing. I think is the pre-fishing, is
Hmm.
like really get out there and like really pre-fishing like not like kind of like, it's hard to forget that like I'm not really here to have fun yet. Like fun's gonna come, tournament day. Right now I'm trying to figure things out, and I forget that sometimes because you're out there, you got a rod in your hand, the weather might be nice and things might just be perfect, and you do find a bite and you get fixated on that bite, and come game day, you're like, well, shit, that's the only place I had to go because I didn't go anywhere else. Um,
Hmm.
what do you do? Like, do you just force yourself to constantly go until you figure out everything you wanted to figure out?
Yeah, I try. I'll do more research before Dardanelle gets here, but my plan for every tournament is, researching, seeing where all the launches are, seeing
Mm-hmm.
if there's any areas that I think are productive that are within reach of getting there. I try to go stay away from people, but basically starting out the week, I want to try to go to a different place every day, unless I find something that I think I can break down even more, or if I find a couple of productive spots in a smaller area, I'll spend an extra day there trying to work those. But if I don't think I can put up 5 quality fish, I'm gonna go to a different place every single day of practice. And I did that on Seminole. I eliminated water for 4 days, and I finally found something on Friday. Broken Bow. I eliminated water for 4 days and finally found something on Friday. So I don't know if this, I would love to find something earlier in the week. That way I could sleep better. But, for Dardanelle, but there's no telling. But
Right.
it's definitely all about eliminating water for me.
Well, what's the research like for you? Like, what are you looking at? Because I think a lot of people know things. They know a lot more than some of us know. Because people are showing up to these lakes and they got an idea of what they're doing and they're able to put things together. And it seems like it's more than just map reading. Like, what reports are you looking for? Like when you decide you're going to do a tournament and you realize what lake it's on. what do you start looking for as far as like research goes? Like if you want to share that kind of information with people, because I know there's a lot of stuff out there. Because I'm slowly figuring it out. I've been looking at like for one lake, I've been looking at fishing reports not of last year, but the year before that, trying to figure out what happens in that area. You see if there's a trend for like the month of May or whatever, like especially if it's like one of those river whatever, where like are they draining it all the time? Like what do they usually do? Like, and that was like some of the things I figured out this year was like, don't look at the last report, look at multiple reports around the same time frame throughout the years. What are some of the things you like to do when we do like what we call research?
I try to look at all the past 2 to 3 years, what was going on then, what was working then, what the weather was like then, what the water temperatures were like specifically. That's a big thing I pay attention to is water temperature. That's all I use my freaking fish finder for is water temperature and what time it is really. And the depth, I'm always looking at that water temperature. That, and I would, map research also. But I'll try to watch, try to like surf around, and if there's any events, if there's any kind of videos on the place as far as like tournaments, just some Joe Blow going out there fishing in his boat, that's cool and all that kind of stuff. But like I want to see like a tournament in that specific kind of time frame, right. Like Lake Seminole. All the research you will do on Lake Seminole, it's going to say chatterbait, 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 and that's what was won. That's what it was won on for our tournament, but that was not what was working for me. I fished a chatterbait as hard as I could during practice. I didn't catch any fish on it. I love throwing a chatterbait. I've caught a lot of big fish on a chatterbait, but I didn't catch any on there, and it was a jerkbait. So I always keep it in the back of my mind that all the research that I'm going to read and do on the place, it's not necessarily going to apply to me or the area that I find. Right. So I try to throw my strengths out there and do different things than what I read, but I always got to try to balance that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my thinking.
The way I see it, like nothing's like, no matter what you do, nothing is like set. Like these are all just things that kind of give you an idea to kind of help prepare for what you don't know anyways. But when you go there, you also got to realize that this is a lake, and and these are wild animals. These aren't like these things are ever changing. And there's different things that are changing them throughout the year. So it's hard to like, I mean, like I want to know, but then again, sometimes you go down there and you go with this false sense of security, like, oh, I think I learned something, I figured out, but you didn't because you hadn't been on the water yet. You read an article or you saw a YouTube video or whatever, and that was a different day, a different year, a different angler, different all kinds of things, and I know it's tough. Like the whole part of like tournament fishing, it's hard. It's definitely not easy, and there's just so many things that go into it. There's so many things that you want to do, they kind of like just to make things as easy as you can, because it's not going to be easy come game day unless you just found them. You know what I mean? But finding them is the hardest part.
Exactly, and finding the numbers too.
Yeah, the numbers, the big, not just the numbers, but like the quality fish. I can go out there and find a limit, but if it's not a big limit, then I'm just one of those names at the bottom of the middle or the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
So, but Darnell, then would you know what your next bass event is going to be?
I think Pickwick was the beginning of May for a Bassmaster. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Have you been to Pickwick yet? There's a lot of tournaments on Pickwick this year.
I have not. I've never been to Seminole till this year. I haven't been to Broken Bow till this year. Fort till this year. Like I'm fishing a lot of places for the first time.
But then how do you feel like after you do well at all these events? I mean, did you have a feeling you were going to do well? Like, I mean, where did you kind of cut your teeth at, like fishing to where like you kind of, seem like you got like an edge now on tournament fishing? Granted, like, I mean, you haven't won the first place check, but that's not too far. That's not out of your reach. You're close. I mean, you're doing something right. Like, where did you really cut your teeth at?
Well, I grew up fishing the Sabine River, and I grew up fishing the Calcasieu River, which is connected to the Sabine River. They have Elite Series events there every year. I grew up fishing Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn, not as much as the rivers, but I've traveled all over the country for work for probably the past 10 years, and I've lived up in Michigan for the past 3 years. So having my experience growing up fishing down south and then learning, a whole new scheme of things up north, I think that's made me make better decisions. I make a lot of decisions on the fly. I don't know. I really go out and I keep my bait wet all day. I don't eat all day. I may not use the bathroom all day. Like, I'm so tuned into what's going on. I'm gonna none of my jerk bait's not gonna be dry all day.
Right.
Like those 2 tournaments, I threw the snot out of it. It
Yeah.
was physically and mentally exhausting.
I bet. I mean, so how are you looking at the rest of the year? I mean, you got to be pumped. I mean, like, you do have a possibility for your name to be up there, with the top guys. I mean, you're number 5 right now, and one like and you've only done 2 tournaments with them with Hobie.
It feels good, and I really hope I can. I want to keep some good momentum. I mean, I
Right.
obviously want to win, but people will also remember you for being consistent. So that's kind of really what I'm shooting for, also.
Right. 'Cause, I mean, like it is about momentum because like when you think about guys like Russ Snyder and like these guys, it's like they don't ever stop competing. Like they don't
Yeah,
ever take breaks. Like I mean, every weekend, like it's just like I get annoyed with seeing them on Instagram, just like oh check here, check there. Like, I don't even know what tournaments they're fishing anymore. I just
yeah,
I mean I just hit like because I think that's what you're supposed to do. You hit the like, put some praise hands whatever in the comment section, and that's what you do. But I mean those guys are just consistent, and and every single one of them say like they'll pretty much tell you they don't want to stop because the momentum's good right now. Like they're afraid to not compete because you don't know how long this ride's going to last. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a feeling that you get deep down inside. I mean, why not go to the next one? I mean,
Right.
you kind of got to if you think about it.
Yeah.
You got to
So if you
try if
yeah,
you can
so if you had
afford
to
it. You
like
got to try.
yeah, dude. I mean, like especially like if you, I think the worst thing would be like is if you do good at one tournament, how bad that could screw your whole year up. You know what I mean? Because it's like you get that in you and you're like, oh, I did it, and then you can't repeat it over. You can't repeat it.
False hope.
Yeah.
No, I've
You
had
know,
some bad tournaments, bad
yeah.
local tournaments, actually, in Michigan. It's harder to compete. It's harder for me to compete against guys in Michigan than it is uh, to do well on some of this national stuff. I feel like because there's some
You think
really, really local hammers up there in Michigan.
I feel the same way a lot of times because like I fished the New York KBF up here, and those guys can fish, and they don't ever leave the state of New York, but they understand those lakes like the back of
Mm-hmm.
their hands, and they especially those Finger Lakes where there's not a lot of like no like I mean like you can't look at a map and figure it like I mean, you got to go out there and you got to find it because there's no like you can't see where the structures are on them. You got to go out there and you got to go out there and graph it, and those guys just know because they've been on those lakes so long. It's just like
Yeah,
I hate going out there and fishing with them because I just know that one of them are gonna whoop me really really bad. And it's just
mm-hmm. Because they
it's
got
easy.
this long list of spots that they can go to that they've been hitting up for X amount of years, and I'm
Yeah,
still trying to build that list. Like I'm right
right.
here. Like my list is tiny right now.
Yeah, yeah. So if you had to map out the rest of the year, like what are you looking at? Like what are you thinking? Like are you starting to strategize more? Like because like I mean obviously you're 5th place for the Angler of the Year rankings. You got Darnell coming up. I mean as far as I know that's I don't know how you're doing in Bass yet, but as far as accumulating angler points of the year, and when you're thinking about championships and things like that, you seem to be Hobie heavy right now. Like are you
Mm-hmm.
really like looking at the year like trying to be strategic like how you want to? One good tournament, and who knows where your life will be like next year. You like how are you thinking? How you like kind of deciding what you want to do with the rest of the season? Because we still got a whole. Like I feel like still we got like 3/4 of a season left.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I want to fish just about every single Hobie for the rest of the year. Besides the ones that are going to be close to when my son is born, I have to look at the list. I don't really
I
know.
think you're gonna miss the Susky. You'll probably miss
That
the
is,
Susquehanna.
yeah, I will
You'll
miss
miss the
that one.
Susquehanna. So.
Yeah. So other than that, I want to fish the rest of them. Maybe I could do better and replace one of the other finishes I had. Keep AOI points up. Try to just get that top spot and maybe not be touched. We'll see. But we got the TLC, got the Bassmaster Championship on Possum Kingdom, and the KBF National Championship.
Yeah.
So I gotta focus on those too.
Yeah, I keep
Um,
forgetting. Yeah, are you doing a lot of KBF events this year?
I haven't done a single one this year, and I would like to, so I
Me
can
too. But I just
do it and participate. Like
yeah.
try. But I don't know if I'll be able to with all the local stuff plus the
That's what I'm
Hobie.
saying. Like, I feel like it was just too much because
It's a lot of options.
that's what I'm saying. I love. I fished nothing but KBF events prior to this year, and I like them. They're fun, man. I like 1-day tournaments better than 2-day tournaments, just because I hate the stress of a 2-day tournament. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. But it is what it is. It's just like it just didn't line up well for some reason. The Hobie schedule was just it was just exciting when I saw it. And I'm like, I can do a lot of these events, and it was just whatever for whatever reason. But I did wish I could do a little more KBF events, but I just don't think I'm gonna be able to pull it off this year.
Yeah, and KBF's coming up to Lake St. Clair June 5th and 6th, and I want to do it so bad, but that's like when I need to be down in Texas getting prepared for Possum Kingdom and focusing, because that's a lot of money to have a chance to win. I want to focus. I'm going to be there riding around just looking at launches for a few days until we're allowed to practice.
Right.
I really, really want to dedicate time and effort into trying to do good there. Yeah. But that's one KBF event I really wish I could make.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, back to Hobie though. I mean, that seems to be where the money is for you right now. Like as far as you got the Angle of the Years, you've already made it to the TOC, and that's I mean, I know that the national championship for KBF is a big deal, but I don't know something about being one of the top 50 in the TOC is that's pretty motivating.
Yeah, it's a sense of it's a little more prestigious,
right.
of a possibility or whatever to be able to win that. 50 of the best. Yeah, because you got to look at the way you got to qualify compared to the way you got to qualify for like the KBF national championship and stuff. It's knocked down to more of a smaller percentage of, who can make it in, I guess. You know what I mean?
We also get an idea like who might whoop your ass. You know what I mean? It's not like the, KBF national championship. Like who was that guy that got first place? It could be anyway. It could be some guy who made it there off online tournaments or some guy who won his, a local event and got his qualification that way. But with the 50 that you can kind of see throughout the year, you can watch like how the rankings are going and who's going to be there, and those kind of things. I mean, I know I just like the way it just feels better to me, like the TOC as far as when you think of like a championship, like a national championship or whatever. It's like, okay, those are 50 of the best. Like there's no bullshit. There's no like you're going to lose one of those 49 guys that are on that or gals whenever that list, obviously gets finalized at the end of the season.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes you feel like you got a little bit more of a chance, maybe. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm only going fishing against 49, not 300.
Not like 800. Dude, I remember one year KBF had like 800 people. It's like it's 800. Who knows how many sticks are hiding in there?
Yeah, and that's true. That's very true. That is true.
Well, cool, man. We'll wrap this up because you can't be hanging out in the McDonald's parking lot all day.
It's all good. My dad's the deputy chief here.
Oh. But still, I imagine you like to get out of your car, go do some stuff. But yeah, man. Like I saw what you're doing. I was kind of excited. Like I was like, oh wow, this guy's doing really good. I love talking to people that people don't really like. They're like, who's this guy? And then all of a sudden he just shocks everyone. And it seems like you kind of had that potential. Like it's like when this is all said and done, I feel like your name's going to be up there.
I appreciate that.
Obviously you show that you know what you're doing, and I've heard you talk on the other podcast. So there's a lot. I mean, I want to have you back on here because a lot of things I want to pick your brain about. But this episode, I kind of just wanted to get to know you a little bit. You'll definitely be coming back on. We'll catch up after a few of the the future tournaments once those things kind of work themselves out. But is there anyone that you want to thank right now that kind of like makes fishing easier for you?
Dry Creek Outfitters. They've helped me out a lot as far as a non-endemic sponsor goes. I can pay a lot of my bills this year and keep fishing hardcore because of them. Yeah, I hope more companies get involved like they do, or like they did with me, to help me out for the year, because I've got a really, really good deal, and they went above and beyond. That's all I can say, without putting numbers in the game. But Rusted Dreams Garage, they've helped me out too, on a monetary way, and that I can't thank them enough. CW Custom Baits, they make some of my favorite spinner baits and jigs. I was smacking some big old pigs down in Texas last week on some of their jigs. And Cajun Lures, I really like Cajun Lures soft plastic. Hobie Eyewear, I love Hobie Eyewear, and Gator Waders. Just got a deal worked out with Gator Waders, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah, love to be working with all these people. It's like I don't know, it feels good to work with these people.
Right. Isn't this is the first time you ever had been able to work with people like this before?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It's the first time I've ever had sponsors.
So going to the kayak world was a pretty good decision, huh?
Yeah, I definitely want to move to the boat world in the future. I mean, Bassmaster Elite Series is the ultimate goal, fishing the classic, but I'm not in any rush to get there, and I'm really loving this kayak stuff. I just love kayak fishing, period.
You just got a new Hobie, right?
I did. It's a used Hobie, new to me, but it's in really, really good shape. It's a friend of a friend. Got a really good deal on it. And I just, before we started the podcast, I was just on the phone with a friend at Garmin, and I am getting live scope in case I
Yeah.
need it. In case I
In case
need
you
it.
need it, right? Like, yeah.
Because I mean, if you got to think about it, if you don't have it on some situations when
Oh,
you're going to be left
nothing.
behind.
I got nothing bad. Like, you know, you hear people say like, "Oh, the problem with those is that people get too used to using them and blah." I'm like, look, if I need it, like I would love to have it. And the worst thing about it is like not having it when you need it. And so I don't know. I'm one of those guys. Like if I can get it, I'm gonna get it. Like I mean, it does serve a purpose.
I don't see it helping me out in 2 or 3 foot of water where I'm probably going to spend a lot of time these next few weeks fishing. So, but there's going to be a time and a place for it, and hopefully it can help me out because I know it's going to help somebody win some money this year. So might as well be me.
Well, good. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, congrats on finding out you're having a boy. That's good news. Boys are great. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Good luck with the rest of the season, and we'll have you back on soon.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.